Well, to say that I was disappointed with this result is probably a bit of an understatement. I think the focus of my frustration and disappointment had probably moved from the school to the employment tribunal system. I found it absolutely impossible to believe that anybody could have come to that conclusion given that evidence. I mean, obviously I'm very close to it, but it just didn't seem to me, it didn't make any sense at all. I had a look at what was open to me to do from that point, and I guess, it looked like an appeal. I could appeal the decision, make a formal appeal. So I looked online about how to do that, and I started getting the forms and making these applications and things like that, filling in all this stuff. And this would have involved going to London, to the Employment Appeal Tribunal. I think it was Salisbury Square, London, right next to where all the law courts and things are. The centre of the British legal system. And I noticed that one of the bits of paper they sent through, it was something called the Bar Access Scheme. And what this was is that people weren't represented by legal counsel, were offered the services of a barrister for a few hours to give them some advice. So I thought, well, that's got to be a good thing, because I didn't have a clue what I was doing, really. Anyway, we got the appointment, because you had to go through a system where you had to apply for an appeal, and then they would have a short hearing and they would decide whether you had the grounds for an appeal or not, save wasting time. So I went up to London, and I went there early to meet this chap. The chap's name was Zishan Dar, and a very slick guy, young fella, barrister, so he'd obviously done pretty well for himself. And he said, what do you intend to do? And I said, I'm going to go about the decision they made, And he said, look, I'll give it to you straight, you're wasting your time. You will never ever get a judge to second guess another judge. He said it's really, really, really rare. The second judge will always say that the first judge heard all the evidence and they'd been involved in the case for months, and they'd talked to all the witnesses and they'd seen body language. He said you'll never get them to change their mind. You've got to find some point of law. If you can find that they have erred in law, that's the only chance realistically you're going to get an appeal. And I said, well, this is, I'm way out of my league. He said, don't worry. Anyway, he went through all my stuff really quickly, went through it, asked me a few questions. He said, I think we can get them, he said, we can almost certainly get them on the uplift, because, the judges found in their judgment that you'd been sacked, and they said you'd made a substantial contribution because of your conduct. Well, if it's a conduct thing, then the uplift applies. It's not for some other substantial reason. But he said, I think the best thing we can get them on is the pension, because how was your pension loss worked out? And I said, well, I just said it'd probably take me a year to find a job, and it's the loss of the contributions to my final salary pension scheme. And he said, well, that's completely wrong. It's a continuing loss. Anyway, by this time it was time to go in, and we went in, and I don't know if it was one judge. I think it was one judge. And the school had their lawyer up there as well. They brought out the big guns for this one. And they started arguing legal things between them. Every now and then I was called on to make some comment, particularly about how my pension was, what I'd asked for lost pension, etc., etc. And well, to cut a long story short, at the end they said, we will allow this appeal. You've got reasonable grounds for appeal, and we're happy to hear it, which was great, which was great news. Anyway, this character Zishan Zar, was quite pleased about this, and I said, but there's no way, the arguments you've been through there's no way I'm going to be able to do that sort of stuff. He said, well, obviously, if you want to appoint me for that, I'm afraid to say you're going to have to pay me for it. And I said, oh, no, I don't care. I want to get this cracked. So I had to start giving him money before he'd start any work on it. Lots of money. I can't remember what it was now, hundreds of pounds anyway. And he drafted, what I need to say for my witness statement. He worked out what he was going to say, etc., etc., etc. And then the big day came, and we're up in London in this big courtroom, 3 judges, the normal sort of thing like you get at the ordinary employment tribunal. And these, the barrister and this lawyer for the school were arguing this and arguing that. And okay, as I say, every now and then I was called to pretty much the same sort of thing. And at the end, again, I'm pretty sure they said it on the day. Almost sure they said it on the day. They said, we will uphold the appeal. And we will remit it back to the Ashford Employment Tribunal with stipulation that they've got to change this, and this. Anyway, obviously I was really pleased by this. It was, the one little success I'd had in the whole thing, really. And I said, well, what do I do about doing these arguments when you come to when we come to the new tribunal? He said, well, I'm not doing myself out of work here, but you won't need me, because he said all you're going to have to do is demonstrate that you've tried to get a job with a final salary pension, and you have failed to get a job with a final salary pension. That's all you've got to do. And he said, you can do that. You don't need me to do it, because obviously it will cost a lot of money. You're travelling down to Kent and all that sort of stuff. So that was that. It was, and when the actual printed judgment came through, I think they read it all out, but it's one of those sort of things, there's so much stuff going on, you just can't sort of take it in. Oh damn. The glasses case is just blown away. When I actually read the judgment, it was really scathing about the Ashford Tribunal. It was saying all sorts of things. It said it fell into error 3 ways. They'd worked out Mr. Lund's pension because that's the way he asked, but there are two ways of working out a lost pension, and the tribunal didn't use either of them. It said they'd asked Mr. Lund to provide stuff to calculate his pension loss, which they should have known he couldn't provide because pension providers don't provide this information. They said they tried to work out how they'd worked out my loss or something like that, and they couldn't work it out from the information that was given, the judgment. It was contradictory in places, the judgment. It said in the judgment that Mr. Lund hadn't provided the information we required, when plainly he had, because the information was in front of us. The funniest thing they said was something about the reason for his being sacked, and they said we couldn't work out from the judgment what the factual reason for Mr. Lund's sacking was, according to the Ashford Tribunal, which is an extraordinary thing to say, really, isn't it? So it was all looking pretty good. So basically, what I had to do is I had to, as Zishan said, I would have to detail all that job application I'd made, what happened, why I didn't get them, etc., etc., etc. And he was quietly confident. The other interesting thing was there's 2 ways of calculating the pension. The simplified one, which if I'd have been 25 or something like that, they would have used that. But there was something called the substantial method of counting pension loss. And basically what it said was, I'd been in stable employment for a long time, which I had been, 20 years. I'd been with the same employer, obviously. I was at a stage in my life when I wasn't looking to switch careers, which obviously I wasn't. And what that said was, it was a continuing loss. So because I'd lost my career, 7 years or whatever it was before I was due to retire, it meant that my pension would be that much smaller, and if I lived for another 20 years, 30 years, whatever, that amount of money I'd lost every year would be added up and calculated. And he showed me the tables for this, and it came out to something like £120,000. They'd done me out of 120 odd thousand pounds worth of pension. which was quite extraordinary, quite extraordinary. And whilst I wasn't doing this for the money, obviously, you know, the situation I was in at that particular time, that wouldn't have been a bad thing to have. And obviously it would have sent out quite a message to the school, wouldn't it, about what they'd done. So it was a question of preparing for my third visit to the Ashford Employment Tribunal.